Welcome back, everyone, and thank you for joining us again. I'm Peter Mastriani. I'm the founder and director of The Buyer's Guide, and The Buyer's Guide are the creators of the SMART program, and you are going to be walking through the second element of SMART, which is about making it happen and managing the money to actually make it happen. So today's a big one. It's big because of its importance to the overall success in making this new venture work. Today is all about the money.
The best things in life are free, but you can give them to the birds and bees. I want money. That's what I want.
So making it happen. What is making it happen all about? Well, there's no doubt that saving for the initial deposit is more than half the battle when it comes to buying your own home, especially when it's so easy to be frivolous and maintain your current spending habits. I guess your habits become your pattern. And really, if you want to own bricks and mortar, changing your spending pattern is hardest and probably arguably the most important undertaking you're going to make. Changing your spending patterns will only set a good foundation and establish good habits. It's going to be hugely beneficial for you in the long run. Now, I've been on a Kentucky trip. Look, I have to admit it was 6 weeks of alcohol-fueled fun. I came home, I felt like a man of the world, but it took me 2 years to pay off my holiday debt. And look, that scenario is not unique just to me. We've all taken holidays that we probably can't truly afford. We've probably all accumulated additional personal debt at some point in time, used our credit cards more often than we've realized, and had our car loan repayments on top of all that as well. Suddenly, it comes to a point that more than half our weekly wages just walked out the door before we've even got to it. When you're faced with multiple concurrent debts, it can be crippling and all too easy to say that it's just too hard. Killing debt is paramount, and no effective saving strategy includes debt repayments. The reason behind this is that the interest on debt will always be higher than the amount you've received by keeping your cash in the bank. The sooner the debt has gone, the sooner you'll be able to start breathing easier. This all dovetails into our earlier webinar where we discussed change and what that change could actually mean when you're the epicenter of it. So this is the piece that we really need to tackle head on. So through the program of Making It Happen, we're going to be talking about managing the money. We're going to be talking about measuring it. We're going to be talking about maintaining it, making it happen, and the meaning in the matter, the real intention of why you're doing this and what you're hoping to achieve in that process. To manage your money, you need to know two really important things. First of all, you need to know the source of where the money is coming from. And secondly, you need to know where your money is going. Sounds pretty simple, but most people don't pay any attention to it, particularly where the money is going. For the vast majority of us, our main source of income is going to be our after-tax salary. Some of us may receive a little bit of income from investments, but for most of us, it's going to really center around that paycheck. So now that we've identified the source, where does it go? Most people will respond with something like, buggers me, or who knows? In order to get you on track, in order to realize your home ownership dreams, you have to become accustomed to where you're spending and where you're consuming. And some of us genuinely don't know where our money goes. So in order to resolve this issue, I guess there's two simple options. One, and the Joe Hockey stance, is to, go out and earn more money. And the second aspect you could do is to basically be spending less. Now, earning more might not be an immediate possibility. However, spending less is something that can be implemented almost immediately. Spending less will result in a surplus in comparison to last week's bill, and that additional money can be stashed away. However, money stashed away will not always be used to its best potential if you still have debts to tackle. So I think that's an important aspect to look at and talk about debt, to understand the types of debt and how you can repay debt as well, which we'll be moving through next. So let's talk about debt. Look, it's pretty important to remember that debt is really commonplace. It's so common, in fact, that almost everyone has it in one shape or form or another. There's nothing to be embarrassed by having debt. And debt only becomes unmanageable when you ignore it or when it goes beyond your means. Managing and maintaining your debt is easy to do when you actually understand what it is all about. By understanding why things are the way that they are, you can easily find solutions to overcome your own individual debt problems. So the most important aspect is actually to identify the debt and the types of debt, which will then give you a strategy on which debts you can pay back first and start prioritizing. So when we start to talk about debt, we need to identify it, we need to know the facts about it, and then we need to work out our debt management strategy. So when we look at the identification, it's very important to remember that not all debts are created equal. Debts would be so much easier to manage if they were. Understanding the subtle differences is really critical to determining which one to tackle first. Increased understanding allows a bit of strategy to come into play as opposed to making sporadic payments here and there to multiple outstanding lenders. In its most basic form, debt can be broken down into three areas. Firstly, is it secured or unsecured? Secured debt means that there's collateral, means that collateral is tied up in the arrangement. And collateral is basically a security that is held against the debt. For example, if you had a car loan, your car would be used as collateral in case you defaulted on the loan. An unsecured debt is the opposite in that no collateral is held against it. A credit card is a fine example of an unsecured debt. An unsecured debt is also likely to attract a higher rate because the investment or the loan is seen to be a riskier option for the lender compared to a secured debt. The second aspect to consider is how is the debt paid? Again, is it structured or is it unstructured? Structured debt will have a timeline for installment payments. Again, a car loan would be a great example. The big benefit of this scenario is that there is a no surprises environment and repayment amount and timelines are going to be fixed. Credit cards would be an unstructured debt because they don't have a fixed payment amount. A minimum payment will be calculated by taking a small percentage of the amount owing plus interest. This is where debt gets troublesome because you have the option to pay the minimum or pay more. And having an option can lead people to getting caught up in, we'll just pay it next month. It's that kind of mindset that causes trouble. And the third thing that you need to be mindful of is the debt source. Who actually holds the debt? Who is the source? The source of where the money or the debt comes from is a huge indicator to choosing which one you will pay off first. The source with the highest interest rate will be the one that should definitely be paid off first. So let's look at some facts about debt. Now, this is, I promise, the only graph that I'll show in the presentation, but it gives you a good idea of how debt has actually increased in comparison to other global economies that are very much similar to Australia. And as you can see, our household debt is really shooting upwards. The Australian government, they struggle to balance the books, and media outlets will bash up debt problems as well on a pretty regular basis. I guess debt is a pretty dirty secret that everyone has, and yet it's rarely openly talked about. It's like hearing about a gambler's wins but never their losses. So, to put debt into perspective, according to the Australian Bureau of Statistics, government debt floats somewhere between 12 to 14% of our gross domestic product, whereas household debt is probably in the vicinity of 100% of GDP. At the end of 2013, household debt was in excess of 1.8 trillion, or about 80 grand for every Australian. And now that we're closer to the end of 2015, I'm sure that amount is even higher. It's a huge number, isn't it? Now, I won't argue about the semantics and the social issues that this topic could uncover, but the numbers speak for themselves, and it is consistent. We all have it and are sometimes a little scared by it, but in the end we have to deal with it. The true fact about debt is the only way we can reduce it is by earning more or spending less. Earning more isn't always that easy, especially over the short to medium term. Spending less can be done with immediate effect, and this is what we're going to explore in a little bit more detail through the debt management strategies that will hopefully be able to get you to move on. Debt management strategies. Look, I believe there is 4 debt management strategies that you'll need to implement if you're actually serious about paying down your debts and commencing the growth of your nest egg. So those strategies, which we'll go into detail, are consolidating, aggressiveness in terms of aggressively paying them down, have goals, and most importantly, budget. And you need to be doing a combination of all of these factors. So tighten up the belt, cut up the credit cards, remove all of life's luxuries, including the morning coffee, and you can only eat beans. That's my hot tip. Now, it doesn't sound like much fun, and taking an approach like that won't last long. Trust me. I've done it before, and I quickly realized that my emotions are directly linked to budgeting and saving. If you feel glum, a shopping spree afterwards can certainly help, but you'll end up feeling even more remorseful for blowing your plans and going back to square one. A debt repayment strategy needs to be realistic because cutting it to the bones can work for some, but you don't want to be resentful of it either. So let's look at these strategies in a little bit more detail now. Consolidating your debts is, something that should realistically be considered if you have multiple concurrent debts. A huge benefit of consolidating is that it brings it down into one manageable repayment, and the source is all from that one point as well. So look, obtaining the debt consolidation loan, like I said, will merge all of the existing loans and credit cards into that single loan. Now, the larger the total amount, though, the harder it's going to be to consolidate. Credit card transfers can definitely be viewed from a consolidation perspective as well. The rates are certainly attractive. They could be 0% on balance transfers for an 18 to 24 month period. Now, that's really tempting. And it's worthwhile, if you're able to pay off that loan within that interest-free period, go hell for leather. If it's not worthwhile and you have some doubts whether or not that could actually be possible to be achieved, really read the finer details in that, as you could well accumulate even more debt in that process. So a big note to make around this is that if you are looking at a new loan, which does have a lower interest rate than the interest on your highest rate loan, well, then it's pretty likely that you'll save money. What you really need to watch out for is the fees of establishing and exiting these arrangements, because this is where you could really come unstuck. Fixed rate loans may also attract fees if you pay the loan out early. This is sometimes referred to as a repayment adjustment. Also, you might find that the repayment period has extended, which could result in a lower installment payment, but it'll take longer to pay off, again, costing more. So really, do the math when you're looking at going down the consolidation route. An aggressive debt reduction plan is basic. It's cut it to the bones type strategy. You cut down all variable spending to the absolute minimum, and you just go hell for leather by putting as much money as possible into those debts. You move home, you sell the car and you walk, you get a second job, you keep entertainment to an absolute minimum, and when you do go out, you don't overspend either. Sometimes you may even ask your closest friends to shout you a beer or buy you a meal or a movie ticket or whatever it may be. And then when things pick up for you, you certainly owe them one and should return the favour. It's going to be tough going by pursuing an aggressive debt reduction plan. And when I've done it, I've sometimes become resentful of it as well. So, just try and do it for a period of time. Have a short spell, loosen the reins as a reward. You'll feel much better for it. It's like doing a dry July. Maybe you should try doing a cheapskate June, for example. If you are looking at an aggressive debt reduction plan, there's probably two quick potential considerations that you should have a think about. The first of which is if you could sell something off to pay the debt. Can you downsize? Can you reduce it? Could you go without maybe? Gumtree and eBay, as we all know, are excellent sites to get rid of unwanted items. So clean out the garage or the storage cupboard of all your unwanted goods and convert them into some cash. And the second aspect to look at is whether or not you can get a part-time job. Is there something simple that you could do on the side? Do you perhaps have a creative flair or an artistic talent or, a secret skill that may no longer be a secret once you get it out there? You should look into websites like Elance or Upwork or Freelancer or Fiverr. There's heaps of these different sites out there, and they're great. People from all over the world will sell their skills basically, and you can take on jobs worldwide. There's writers, artists, designers, programmers, editors, mathematicians, tutors. The list goes on and on. Everyone bids on all the different works, and when you're successful, you'll get the work gig. You could also perhaps try participating in surveys, which will pay money. For alternative thinkers out there, you can come up with an easy-to-do service. For example, on Fiverr.com, people will charge to be others' online girlfriends or boyfriends, for example. It's crazy. You can get people by paying them $10 to write a comment on your blog post. That's pretty easy stuff. So use your creativity and try and spin a buck or two. Goals. I'm a really big believer in goals, simply for the fact that they will actually force you to take direction and change your current pattern of behavior. The best goals are the ones that are achieved by continually focusing your attention on them. You shouldn't make goals that are going to be a reaction to your circumstances or designed to get away from things that you don't want. You should be creating goals that are a realistic stretch, that force a bit of tension in your life, that are clear, that are concise, and, focused on creating your vision. A goal should be something like, I'm going to pay off my $7,000 credit card debt in the next 6 months by contributing an additional $270 per week on top of my monthly repayment. Now that's a good goal, and it's a good goal because it's clear, it's concise, and it's time specific. Now paying off a debt, saving for a deposit, getting a job promotion, whatever it may be, those factors aren't down to luck, but they're down to you and your own efforts. So whatever action you take will result in the end result to match. Consistency is the key, or else you'll tend to swing between having what you want and not achieving anything. So focusing on consistency allows you to achieve your goals in perpetuity. Stick-to-itiveness, it's a personal favorite of mine. It is a made-up word, but it's a great word because, you can create a goal, stick to it, and the results are definitely going to be achieved. So let's do a simple little exercise. I'm going to start playing some elevator music, and in that time I want you to write down 3 simple financial goals that you would like to achieve over the next 6 months. So how did you go? Did you get 3 financial goals down? Do they make sense? Do you think that they're realistic to achieve? Look, digest it, write it down, maybe pick up that piece of paper again tomorrow and revise it and create a strategy that's going to be right for you. But in order to achieve your goals, a very important aspect to do is actually to come up with a budget. You can spend all you want, but there does come a point that you need to actually save money. And budgeting is by far probably the most important factor to commence with. So to commence, you really need to get to know your weekly spending habits. You should probably start by doing a brain dump and list all your income and then all of your expenses that immediately spring to mind. Start off by running through your head what your typical day looks like and see how many times you go to your wallet or purse and spend money. The morning coffee, the rent, the phone bill, the sandwich at lunch, the wine after work, hobbies that you may participate in, and everything else in between. We'll get into the detail, but start making a list. If you really want, I can put the elevator music back on and we can do a little bit of list building right now, I guess. Now, how was that? Was that enough time to get all your expenses down? Look, if it wasn't, again, tomorrow, perhaps relook at the list, revise it, and really ensure that you build a really good picture of what your true spending habits are. And when you really start to look at your spending habits, it can be alarming. Perhaps because it's all on paper and it's being examined, it can be a bit frightening. The beauty about a budget is that it can allow you to decide what can be cut, which is really the next part of the problem. Saving for a deposit doesn't mean that you can't have a good lifestyle, but cutting back a little and making some sacrifices might not be such a bad thing either, especially when over the long term there's going to be a significant reward. Now, I'm definitely not going to lecture you on what you should and shouldn't cut. It's your life and it's your choice. Everyone's personal circumstances and journey will be different, and we'll all face the same battle of keeping our finances healthy and at times getting the budget back in the black. Okay, so the decision time is where this could start getting ugly, I guess. And to answer the big question, what can realistically be cut and scaled back, or are there cheaper alternatives? You decide, I guess. It's up to you, but be realistic and don't cut it back to the bones. Cutting back too far will, like I said, only annoy you, even make you resentful, and could ultimately steer you away from your desired outcome. Budgeting and planning are largely about control, being honest and laying out your expenses. Always try to overestimate. That way, you'll always have a little extra to play with. If you have no idea of what you're actually spending and on what, pull out your iPhone or your Samsung and, download an app or download something from Google Play in terms of a free expense monitoring app. A good one to download is ASIC Smart Budgeter. It's free. It's a great little app. And if you've got or if you don't have a smartphone, maybe invest in a $2 notepad and record what you spend over a day, a week, a fortnight, each month. The results will tend to be quite scary. When I first did it, I actually realised how undisciplined I was. I had a great lifestyle, but I definitely lived month to month and I had very little to actually show for it. The devil is in the detail. So, let's set it out as it stands today and let's get on top of the household balance sheet. The most important thing is that you're honest with your figures. Now, I've included a detailed Excel document and a debt reduction calculator that can help you get a better management of your debts and stay in control. And I strongly suggest that you look at completing those documents as part of your homework. And these tools are going to be available to download within the tools folder in your members section. So, some saving tips. Okay, now the first thing I suggest is start small. It's easy to feel that in order to save money that you actually have money to save. At first, you'll feel that you don't have any extra money because to date, all that money has been accounted for. So start off by starting small. Try a 30-day challenge. Save $1 today, put it in a jar, save $2 tomorrow, $3 the next day, $4 the day after, and after 30 days, you'll actually have saved $465. Not bad going, is it? So give it a go because really it's just a process of conditioning. Tap into your financial mindset, challenge yourself to save just something. No matter how small it is, just make a start. Most people try to save money on their own by putting away a little extra money that they have left over at the end of each month. Now, in theory, that seems practical, but in reality, there is rarely any money left over at the end of each month. So take a percentage of each paycheck and place it into your savings before you pay any bills, before you go to any bars or restaurants or make any other payments. The most success you'll have when it's about your money and saving is when you pay yourself immediately. Automate the process and have it transferred into a separate savings account or a mutual account where the money can't be accessed. That savings nest egg will quickly grow from that basis. A third thing that I suggest that you do is, play a payment game. It's a game that you can play for when you purchase large items on credit for a period of time, such as a car or a large appliance. When the final payment is made, instead of using that money which was going, towards a monthly payment to purchase something else, continue to make that monthly payment into your savings for the next 6 months to a year. Again, that savings pot will increase significantly. The next game to play is Quit a Bad Habit game. Now, we all start this game at the beginning of a new year. We make a resolution to, be debt-free, stop smoking, get fit, drink less, whatever it may be. And it's a game. So in this game, you should take the money that you would have normally used for your habit and instead invest it into your savings. Not only will you increase your long-term savings, but, you could also become a lot healthier for it as well. An added benefit is that quitting the bad habit will often entitle you to a discount on other things, perhaps like your life or your medical insurance. A healthy attitude towards your life is often much cheaper. So some other saving tips is to look at coupons, to look at sale items, to shop around, reduce your bills. Check out comparison sites. Do it yourself where you can. Bargain. Only pay with budgeted excess cash that you have. Eat absolutely everything in your cupboard before you go grocery shopping. Make sacrifices. eBay or Gumtree unwanted items. Know the difference between a need and a want. Be preemptive in anticipating, big bills that could be coming in. Budget for it. Be proactive. Credit cards as well. This is a big one. And look, everyone will offer a reward point scheme, and generally they aren't really what they seem to be. Whatever limit the bank does want to give you, reduce it by half. And, be wary of any promos and don't jump from card to card. Debit cards can be used, in the same way as a credit card as well. So, stop Paying for things that you don't need, don't use ATM machines that are outside of your bank to reduce the fees that you pay. Limit your surcharges, limit over-limit fees or late payment fees. Those small minor things really quickly add up in the long term. The whole point of saving money is finding ways to save money. It's not called earning money, as it doesn't rely 100% on your income and what is left over, though, that income does help, of course. Instead, saving money relies on your ability to be smart with your money. So cut your costs, get better deals, and pocket the savings you make into a separate online savings account and really watch that cash pile build up.